Welcome. This is AllMinucOne Quick Shots. Folks, today I'm going to give you an unpopular opinion. Perhaps popular amongst certain groups. There's a lot of talk right now about the republic falling, civil war coming. Now, some people deny the idea of civil war. I don't think that they understand the deeper things that are going on, the things that are going on within the state itself, and also culturally. There's a lot of people who are on the right who believe that they would just win the Civil War all of a sudden because, well, you got a lot of people like me who are ex-military or, people that are law enforcement or whatever else, country boys, rednecks, all that stuff, people that understand firearms, weapons, how to be out in the woods. And potentially, yes, if it becomes guerrilla warfare. Unfortunately, the military apparatus in the United States is moving further and further left. But that's not the unpopular opinion that I want to bring up. Not if the people on the right, the constitutionalists, could win a civil war or not. The unpopular opinion is this. The republic has been dead for a long time. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't bring it back. But we're talking about things that have been in place for 100 years nearly. 80 years specifically, for certain. American history begins, and I mean this like metaphorically, but it begins currently in the modern mind with World War II, which allowed us to become the world empire and the world police and put us in a global leadership stage. And it was about then and a little bit before then, since the 1930s with the Great Depression, that the United States became increasingly socialistic, communistic, and actually technically by the definition of fascism, fascistic. And I don't mean authoritarian as people who have no idea what fascism is. I mean that the United States has become corporatist, has allowed private business and industry, but props up corporations over the smaller business and the smaller men. So if you want to look at some aspects of left, right, and divide, you can say that the typical right is okay with corporations, or let's say the libertarian right. And the left, on the other hand, they hate corporations, but they love the government, while the right wants a smaller government. Both should be kept in check to some degree to allow for maximum freedom and liberty of the individual. But make no mistake, there is no monopolistic power. There is no monopoly without the government enforcement. So when did the Republic really die? Well, was it during FDR's reign? No. He put the nail in the coffin, though. And we never fully came back from that. The closest thing that allowed us to come back from that was essentially the things that that Kennedy started doing, like decreasing taxes and looking into the Federal Reserve. And of course, then he was assassinated. And then Nixon immediately essentially destroyed anything that was left of that because we got off of a gold standard completely. And then maybe Reagan. Otherwise, for the most part, otherwise, we've just been increasing government size, increasing oversight, all this stuff. Most people don't understand that after World War II, we deregulated, and that's why the economy went off, not because of World War II. We stayed in the Great Depression because we were doing like very, very hardcore central planning. There are vestiges of that still today with agriculture, with the educational system, with all kinds of things. I will probably do a video on this Friday, if not Monday, one of the longer form videos. But the real death of the Republic goes back to the Civil War. It really does. And you have to understand that I respect Lincoln and his desire to free slaves initially as he was running, and his intelligence and his rhetoric. But once he became the president and the South seceded, he should have allowed that. And it then became a matter of him being a complete tyrant. He imprisoned many people. He suspended habeas corpus. He did many, many horrible things. And he is seen today as one of the greatest presidents ever. Why? Because he was a dictator? This is how people think. They want to be led by the nose. They want to be sheep. Lincoln, honestly, folks, his desire was to keep the Union together. But that does not mean essentially fracturing the nature of the country, which is what happened. You had men and women who were brothers and sisters, cousins, family who were fighting against each other. It was a horrible war. It's one of the reasons why it is one of the most studied wars in all of history. Excuse me. People today talk about balkanization. And balkanization is a potential answer. The problem is if you look at the people on the left, the progressives, they're all Stalinist. They believe in world domination. See, I want world freedom, but through example. Like, I don't believe in bombing my way to bring you democracy, if you would. In fact, I don't believe in democracy because democracy is just mob rule. The founders of this nation knew that. That's why we have a republic. Now, with all that said, I want to show you this real quick. This article here was an ad put into the Washington Times, and it is calling for the president to basically have martial law and gives excuses of things that Lincoln did. Now, I'm going to go over this probably tomorrow. I just didn't have time today, folks. My time is limited as life goes. But it talks about things that Lincoln did. Right here it says Lincoln ordered hundreds of northern newspapers that spoke against him to be shut down and their owners and editors arrested, a violation of the First Amendment, of course. Lincoln ordered and arrested Ohio Congressman Clement Vandanegram for the crime of speaking out against him. When Obama talked about Lincoln being his favorite president, you know, he did similar things, folks. Not as egregious, but similar things. Chief Justice of the U.S., Roger Taney, ruled that Lincoln had violated the U.S. Constitution when he illegally suspended the writ of habeas corpus. After hearing this, Lincoln signed an arrest warrant to have the Chief Justice of the U.S. arrested. This happened, folks. You don't know your history, most likely. Lincoln was a tyrant. There's a reason why people wanted to murder him and successfully did. There was actually a conspiracy because of this. The first woman ever to be executed by the federal government was due to this conspiracy. Lincoln ordered the arrest of thousands in Maryland for the crime of suspected Southern sympathies. Maryland was a neutral state, if you do not recall, including ordering the arrest of U.S. Congressman Henry May from Maryland. These people were arrested and held in prison without trial, for some of them for years. Now, this person writing this ad is a, militia member in Ohio, if I'm not mistaken. He's calling for Trump to essentially have martial law and say, well, look, we need to have a redo of the federal election and let the military do this. Folks, no, this is not how we do things. There is a constitutional process we are still in the midst of. Now, if you do not think the republic is not dead, then why do people constantly talk about democracy? We shouldn't be talking about democracy in this nation. We should be talking about the republic. Why do you think the news outlets have been like, oh, we have certified the election. We have called it. Therefore, it is President-elect Joe Biden. No, the electors do not meet until December 14th. And they're actually really not certified by the federal government until January 6th. That is the process. The fourth branch of the government, well, that's technically the spy agencies. But let's say, I know, the mainstream media are an outlet, a propaganda outlet of them. But let's say they're the fifth branch of the government, right? They do not get to tell us how the constitutional process goes. But the reason why I say that the Republic died a long time ago is because we ignore the constitutional process. We ignore it to the nth degree. And it's quite sad. You would actually be more prosperous. Everything that the leftists complain about things not being equal and fair and whatever else, if we just listen to the Constitution, if we allowed maximum freedom, if we applied classical liberalism, we would have a very prosperous society. The problem, I mean, we already do. We already do, despite all of the regulation and whatever else. But we have a ton of manipulation and we have a lot of money going to a smaller and smaller group. Do not get me wrong, though. We do have people. Look, when you're young, you're going to start off kind of poor, usually, right? And I don't mean if you go to college. I mean, you get any job. You're not going to have a lot of wealth. Most people, though, as far as income quintiles go over the course of time, get up into the upper quintiles by the time they're in their 40s or 50s. People who are older have wealth. That's generally how it goes. There's a few small percentage of people who are young that have wealth. And most of what the commies are talking about is this whole like income inequality thing. Basically meaning their material lifestyle is not up to snuff with the material lifestyle of Elon Musk or anyone else who is ultra rich, or a Hollywood actor or actress, or just someone who might be a doctor or maybe working a good tech job that are making, $250,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year. I mean, you're going to live pretty nice. But we do know that there are studies that basically after you make about $80,000 a year, now maybe that's changed to some degree, but let's say $100,000 a year, we can bump that up a little bit. You're fine. In most families, if you have two people working in the household, will be making that. Recall, the median household income is around $50,000 a year in the United States. But the reason why that is, well, the reason why that is because you have to take in all the people that are poor. You have to take in all the people that have roommates and all that stuff. And a lot of this is due to choice. But anyways, I digress. That's a tangent. The reality is that the Republic died a long time ago. And we need to get back to it. We need to repeal things. We need to get back to it. It's going to take a long time. The fight is not over. People are waking up to this. The internet age is helping people out with this kind of perspective because they're getting knowledge that they didn't necessarily have access to before because they had poor educations, because they had government-run educations. By the way, that is a communist point from the Communist Manifesto. It's called indoctrination. But I'm going to leave it there, folks. I will be on YouTube over at the Ends Justify the Memes. A little bit later, also on DLive, Ends_Justify the Memes. That is the live show that I do every week, every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Don't usually plug it on this segment, but going to do so today because, it's coming up here in about an hour. So with all that, folks, this has been AllMinucOne Quick Shots, and I wish you all well.